The Battle of Crécy, fought on August 26, 1346, stands as one of the most decisive engagements of the 100 Years' War. It pitted the English and Welsh forces under the command of King Edward III against a much larger French army led by King Philip VI. This monumental clash would demonstrate not only the tactical ingenuity of the English, but also the devastating consequences of overconfidence and disarray within the French ranks. Edward III's army was a well-prepared and disciplined force, comprising approximately 16,000 soldiers. This included 4,000 knights and men-at-arms, 7,000 Welsh and English archers, and 5,000 spearmen. Notably, Edward ordered his knights and men-at-arms to dismount and fight on foot, a strategic decision that gave them greater stability in combat. The English also employed some of the earliest forms of cannon, marking one of the first recorded uses of gunpowder weaponry in European warfare. In preparation for battle, the English fortified their position with defensive measures. They dug ditches and scattered caltrops, iron spikes designed to injure horses and slow enemy advances across the field. Their position was further strengthened by natural defenses, with a dense forest and marshland protecting one flank, and the small village of Watercourt guarding the other. Facing them was the massive French army, estimated to number between 20,000 and 30,000 soldiers. Among them were the famed Genoese crossbowmen, hired as mercenaries to form the vanguard. Behind them stood divisions of French knights and men-at-arms, led by notable commanders, including the Count of Alençon and the blind King John of Bohemia. The French banner, the oriflamme, was unfurled, symbolizing that no quarter would be given and no prisoners would be taken. As the battle began, the Genoese crossbowmen advanced, but were poorly equipped, having left their protective pavises, or large shields, behind in the baggage train. To make matters worse, a sudden rainstorm struck, rendering their crossbows ineffective as the wet string slackened. When they finally loosed their bolts, their range and power were no match for the longbows of the English archers. The English archers, protected by their defensive position, unleashed a devastating volley of arrows. The Genoese, unable to withstand the onslaught, began to retreat in disarray. Their retreat, however, was met with brutal consequences. The French cavalry, eager to push forward, hacked down the fleeing Genoese mercenaries in frustration, further adding to the chaos. Wave after wave of French cavalry charged the English lines, but their attacks faltered against the disciplined ranks and the relentless hail of arrows. As many as 15 cavalry charges were repulsed, and the growing mound of dead and wounded men and horses created an impassable barrier in front of the English position. In the thick of the battle, the division led by Edward's son, the Black Prince, came under immense pressure. A messenger rode to King Edward, who was observing the battle from a windmill nearby, to request reinforcements for the prince. Edward, however, famously declined, saying, "Let the boy win his spurs," allowing the young prince to prove his mettle. In a remarkable display of courage, King John of Bohemia, though blind, ordered his horse's bridle to be tied to those of his attendants. Together, they launched a desperate cavalry charge into the English lines. The effort was valiant, but futile. All were unhorsed and killed in the attempt. The French king, Philip VI, suffered multiple injuries during the battle and had 2 of his horses killed beneath him. Despite his personal bravery, the French army could not withstand the disciplined and coordinated English defense. As the tide of battle turned decisively against him, Philip fled the field, signaling the end of the engagement. The aftermath of the battle revealed the extent of the French defeat. French casualties were staggering, with over 1,500 knights killed and countless other soldiers lost. In contrast, English losses were remarkably light, with only around 300 men killed. The English captured the oriflamme, a potent symbol of French pride, and the body of King John of Bohemia was later found by the Black Prince, who honored the fallen king's bravery. The Battle of Crécy was a defining moment in military history, showcasing the effectiveness of disciplined infantry, strategic positioning, and the devastating power of the English longbow. It also marked a shift in the nature of medieval warfare, heralding the decline of traditional cavalry dominance on the battlefield.